Hey, welcome back to Doodling with Purpose, the YouTube channel that explores ancient Egypt not from the conspiracy and alien standpoint, but from the conspiracy and hieroglyphic standpoint. And by conspiracy, I mean that it's a language and we're going to learn how to read it. That really didn't flow. Either way, here's last week's homework, and hopefully before you jump in, looking at that first word, you may realize it's similar but not quite right to the words that has been at the start of almost every homework lately, and that's because I screwed up. I put the wrong glyph. It should have been this bird. If it was this bird, you would know what it is. Hopefully it didn't trip you up too much because, a bird. But hey, teachers make mistakes, and that's why it takes a long time to learn this. All right. So if I had drawn the correct bird and it was IW, you would know this was the sign that we are going into the past, like Doc and Marty in the DeLorean, only this time we're doing it with sentence structure and not with 1.21 gigawatts. So knowing we're going to go into the past tense, we look to expect a verb, and we find a verb, and it's a verb that we learned last week, which is punch, and then the determinative of the two running feet, which is always used when people are having movement. So this is reach or attack. Now it's followed by an N, which makes it reached or attacked, and we're going to have to now figure out, well, which one is it, and we'll use context clues. Now it's not always going to be easy, but I'm going to show you in the end how we can kind of piece this together. All right, and this is going to be followed by a pronoun. In this case, the pronoun is you, as in you, the viewer, on UTV. So you reached or you attacked is what we have so far, and now we have a nice, lovely, easy word, marshlands, and by easy I mean that it was in last week's lesson. Not easy in the sense that it's made up of lots of glyphs and two determinatives, but if you've learned your vocabulary, then you know that you either reached or attacked the marshland. And how did you do this? Well, we have the preposition, a word that preposes another, towards a place when you have R, the mouth. And where we're heading is the end of the world or in the name of. Remember, we stole that from Moon Knight's armor last week or a couple weeks ago. Maybe it was last week. It all blends in my head. All right, so here we have to determine what we're saying. We know that you reached or you attacked the marshlands towards the end of the world, or you reached the marshlands towards in the name of. Well, since we don't have a name at the end, it must be the end of the world. But what if we added a name? Ooh, and what a name. So if you don't recognize this is the word Ra. How is this the word Ra? Well, first we have the glyph for God, Neter, and then we have Ra. Neter just preposes the name of the god here to make it easy to read. Normally it would follow, but we're honoring Ra. And there you go. So now maybe it's in the name of Ra instead of the end of the world. So you can see how just the addition of one extra word can help figure out the meaning. But again, you could either attack or reach the marshlands at the end of the world. So you're probably still stuck in those marshlands. All right, let's move on. So here we have a glyph. Hopefully you're extremely familiar with at this point. And if I put a stroke line under it, you'll remember it's the determinative for a place. And that's because it's the word per, which is the word house. It's also the sound per. This is one of those really useful Swiss Army knife type glyphs because per is the word for house. Per is also the pronunciation of this glyph as part of a larger word. So it also works to immediately say you are dealing with a house or a place. So here again we have neter, as we just saw, meaning God, followed by the word house. So that would mean that this is God's house. And again, neter preposes house because of honorific transposition. Normally it would follow the word house if we weren't honoring the word God. So God house probably means church, or maybe it means synagogue, or maybe it means mosque, or maybe you just worship the almighty dollar and it's a shopping center. Either way, God's house or house of God. Now, if we have another example here in the bottom right, you now properly have the glyph following it because there's no honorific transposition. So you have per, neter, neter being beauty, per being house. So this becomes house of beauty, and perhaps that would be the Egyptian way of saying a salon. So again, a very, very useful glyph because it's used to signify places, which occur in writing a lot, but it can also be actually per. So here's a real-world example, and by real-world, I mean an actual place word in ancient Egyptian, which translates to per ankh, remembering that A's are written like that 3 with the smaller top section. So that's pronounced like the vulture. So this per ankh means house of life. Remember ankh, life? House, house of life. Pretty easy one, but I wanted to demonstrate again how versatile it is. All right, now here we have per as part of a word. And what a word. Let's just take a moment to appreciate this word. See how it's a perfect box? That's really important because that was everything hieroglyphics were to the Egyptian. They were an art form. So creating these perfectly blocked words was the goal, which is why there's all the elasticity. So how would you read this? Well, going from left to right and top to bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4. But wait a minute, there's not a single glyph here that tells us which direction to go in because none of them have a face, if you will. Well, hopefully you can look forward in the wall or whatever you're reading and find an animal with a face and then know how to read this one. So when that happens. So this would be the word pert, which is the season of winter. So there you go. All right. Let's move on to the lion. This is a really interesting one because it gets used as the letter L, and it is the letter L, but not until like way, way late in Egyptian. But it's used all the time in mall kiosks and how to learn hieroglyphic videos like this one because L, lion. It was invented so they could specifically write this word. And if you're having trouble going through that, you're welcome to actually to pause it and transliterate it. I'll help you here. So again, ALKTZINDRTZ would be Alexander's. Alexander. So good old Alexander the Great. That they had to invent an L sound in order to accommodate him. So the lion became L. It's rarely used as L. It's pretty much only used as L in his name and every mall kiosk hieroglyphic shop in the world. But in actual ancient Egyptian, it's a double bilateral sound RW. So if you encounter this in a word, if it's not a proper name in a cartouche that spells Alexander or Cleopatra, all right, so it's a tough one to draw. So it starts off with a square with a circle around it like an egg. Then the body is a loop, tail goes in and then out, back legs and front legs. And people like to add little, eyes and nose and mouth and, make a smiling Simba that's going to eat you. All right, so here we have our lion in a word. So it's not L, it is RW. And that's going to be RW followed by Y, followed by T, look at that friendly little determinative, PR. Again, when you see at the end of a word, it's most likely a determinative, not part of the pronunciation. So we know this is a place, it's a house, it's a court, it's a thing, it's a house of blank. Hey, you're already connecting everything together. So in this case, we are dealing with a house of law. So perhaps this is a courtroom or where a judge lives or where they wrote the Declaration of Independence for Memphis. I don't know. I'm making that up. Either way, here's your homework for next week. I tried not to make any mistakes this time. So we went back, and there's some words from previous lessons, but you're going to do some good cleanup as well. So transliterate, translate it, and we'll meet back here. Same hieroglyphic time, same hieroglyphic channel on Doodling with Purpose, Spectra Creative's one and only week-by-week guide to learning hieroglyphics. Like us, share us, tell your friends. It's the best way to show support for this channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.